So as I was mentioning, we've been going through the Eight-Petalled Lotus of Asian medicine and have gone through the meditation or self-cultivation part, the Qigong and Tai Chi part, some diet and nutrition. We'll be exploring more diet and nutrition with each of the elements as well, which again, we'll start today. And some with the acupressure points and massage, tuina, those aspects of healing. So this is in a certain hierarchy. In terms of our health and healing, it starts with our mind. And we have been good, about being able to control our environment to a certain degree. We can air condition our homes when it's hot and heat them when it's cold. But we still really haven't taken care of the emotional balance, the internal stuff that goes with our mind and emotions, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So the five elements also has a very strong emotional, mental basis. But taming the mind is essential to our health and well-being so that we don't get lost in our craving, in our clinging and our attachments, which create suffering for ourselves and others. So the first one, again, is meditation, and then the Qigong and it doesn't have to be Qigong. This is just 5,000 years old. It came up at the same time in the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine, in which acupuncture is taken. There are these eight, it's sometimes called eight limbs, but we're translating this as the golden eight-petaled lotus of Asian medicine. So Qigong is just a vehicle for exercise, moving the blood and qi. Walking is also good. Yoga is also fine. And I mentioned before that it is important to include, the pranayama part of our Qigong is all about breathing as well, moving the blood, carrying the oxygen to the different the cells of the body. So our primary source of energy is the air that we breathe. Again, we can go for a while without eating and drinking. We can't go long without breathing. So the yoga has always been, at least in the US now, it has been associated with the asanas or the physical postures. But yoga to yoke also means, to yoke body and mind, spirit. And breathing is a part of that. So when it's taught, it's done in a very conscious, mindful way with the breath. And there are certain exercises that are focused on the breath. Those are known as pranayama. So we talk about qi, that is the energy. We talk ki is the ki is associated with Japan. Prana means energy as well, pranic energy. And lung in the Tibetan tradition is also, it means wind, but it's air, it's our breathing. So all these aspects are important when we look at healing body, mind, and spirit. So not to forget the breathing part. And just going out for a walk is good. Again, we're focusing again on Asian medicine, so the Asian tradition is more in the way of Qigong and Tai Chi from China in this lineage that we're talking about. The Asian medicine really came from India, and the Ayurvedic system and the Tibetan system, the Chinese system, all come from the same fertile soil. And then massage, as well, as we've just recently concluded that portion that we're going to talk about, that we've been talking about, of the acupressure points. So now that before we get into the I Ching and Mo and those divinations and those kinds of aspects that were also taught in the time of the Yellow Emperor over 5,000 years ago, and Feng Shui, which came up at the same time. Astrology is also part of that, but the Feng Shui, often associated with our homes, has an energy as well. And just like our bodies, we don't want to have blocks or obstacles in our meridians, in the pathways associated with each of the organs. But similarly, in our houses, we can have obstacles or obstructions or places that the energy is stagnant and creates problems for us. So looking at that is something that we will do. But understanding the 5 elements and how we make certain feng shui cures, if there is a problem, one has to understand the 5 elements, the colors especially. And there are certain minerals associated with that, crystals, other kinds of things, and that go that we can use to remedy problems. You don't have to move necessarily. If you have bad feng shui in your house, you just correct the problem. And just like in the body, we make the adjustment necessary for the free flow of energy. So, yeah, the 5 elements are found in this Asian healing tradition: the wood, fire, earth, metal, water. It's the basis of this elegant system, complete system of medicine. It's the foundation of all life within our bodies and the stuff surrounding us in the universe. That's why it is so ubiquitous, and it can be used for healing ourselves and healing the planet as well, if we understand the principles associated with these 5 elements. So understanding the 5 elements as a map, the system as a map, we can see how it influences every aspect of our physical world. It provides a unifying vision, that brings harmony and understanding to our relationships with nature, with the self, with others, understanding the forces that govern those relationships. So understanding that this came thousands of years ago by sages who directly experienced the wisdom and plumbed the depths of this knowledge. And just like the wisdom of our Buddhist tradition, our lineage, it has become, studied as a medical approach for thousands of years. And there have been many people treated. There's been more people treated with this system of medicine than any other system on the planet. So again, it has a recorded history of thousands of years, and established through rigorous system of medical observation, practical application. So we call it an art and science. It is both an art and a science, and it is, science is replicable. We can find the truth through our observations and scientific inquiry. So it's important to understand the principles. And that's what we're going to begin doing here. So it includes many different disciplines, as I was saying, this 5 elements: acupuncture, diet, herbal medicine, exercise, massage, meditation, yoga, tai chi. All of these things, are part of a healthy lifestyle and help us to manage our stress. And we are going to use this map of the 5 elements as an overlay for these different aspects. And more than ever, there's been a strong interest, in Asian medicine. I speak to interns. I've been invited on many occasions to go to Shands and talk to the residents or the interns there and talk about so-called alternative medicine. They may call it alternative. It is a complete system in and of itself, but there's a big interest, and for physicians to know about it, has not been historically part of their Western training, and often there's a bias against it, as not a true science. But at any rate, it is certainly something that many physicians, I get many referrals from physicians for acupuncture because they see the benefits in their own patients who have come with significant problems. And often that's the patient that I see who has gone to many different physicians, had a number of medications, even surgeries, without much relief. And so this is a difficult patient to begin with, but we've had good success with them. I had a patient come to me last week who was for 3 days, had hiccups. Every 2 hours, he'd go into a spell of hiccups for about an hour. And that's during the night too. He couldn't sleep. He was given drugs. He was given, and the physicians were just at their wits' end. They didn't know what to do. And he was suffering, was going without sufficient sleep. And it was very fatiguing and painful. So that in Chinese medicine is seen as a spasm, you know, in the diaphragm. And there's a very specific point between the 7th and 8th vertebrae on the bladder meridian called the diaphragm correspondence. And using that point, he went home and didn't have any more hiccups. So it is an understanding of the system of medicine is very elegant, you know, without drugs, without surgeries, without a variety of interventions that have sometimes more side effects than the presenting symptoms themselves. So we will see how the training the mind and the foundation of these principles will help to bring happiness to yourself and others. So that brings us to the first element. Well, I should say a little bit, I guess, about my training in the 5 elements with Dr. J.R. Worsley in Oxford, England. That is my training in 5 elements, and most recently the 5 element traditions of Japan with my teachers who were Japanese, and I would go back and forth to Tokyo for training, and they would come here. So there are different systems, there are different lineages, just like in Buddhism, there's different lineages of the 5 elements as well. This is a Japanese lineage of the 5 elements that I use primarily in my day-to-day practice, and have been doing that for over 40 years. So this whole tradition has been based, as I say, about 5,000 years ago in the time of Huangdi, who was the emperor there, and this discourse between his physician and himself is what's called the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine, and that is the basis of Chinese medicine. You may know that acupuncture and this system of medicine came to the West really in 1972 when Secretary of State Henry Kissinger improved the relationship with China, and Nixon went to China, and one of Nixon's aides had a gallbladder attack. I think gallbladder, and was hospitalized in China. Appendicitis, and was hospitalized in China, and they used acupuncture anesthesia, and everyone was quite amazed because there were reporters there. James Reston was a reporter who reported on the treatment of this aide, of this assistant to the president, and he was suffering in post-surgical pain, and they used this acupuncture as a vehicle to attend to his pain with remarkable results. So it was being reported on to the in the U.S., and that made a big splash. That was back in let's see, when was that? In 72. Anyway, I went to study with Dr. Worsley in Oxford, England. At that time, there were no schools in the United States. You had to go to China or to Oxford, and my Chinese, of course, was not that good. So I went to study with Dr. Worsley, who was a Brit in England, in Oxford. And we studied that as a 4-year training. And I'm very happy to have had that opportunity to have studied with a master of the 5 elements. I had the good fortune of studying with a lot of wonderful teachers, and now have the opportunity to convey some of that to you. So that teaching was based on the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine, known as Huangdi Suwen, the Huangdi Neijing Suwen. There's a statement in the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine. It says, "These days, people have changed their way." He's talking about 5,000 years ago, but it's even more true now. These days, people have changed their ways, their way of life. They drink wine instead of water, indulge excessively in destructive activities, drain their gym, that's your basic energy, and deplete their chi. They do not know the secret of conserving their energy and vitality. Seeking excitement and momentary pleasure, people disregard the natural rhythm and order of the universe. They fail to regulate their lifestyle and diet, and sleep improperly. So it is not surprising that they look old at 50 and die soon thereafter. That's his opening statement in this discussion he's having with his Chico, his physician, saying about why people are suffering. Because they're not in touch with the natural rhythms of the earth and abuse their bodies in ways that can be prevented. So the first, okay, any questions so far in that brief introduction before we start the wood element? All right.
Lama, would it be possible today to mention a couple of metal points? I mean, I know a couple of metal points for since we're going into the fall season.
I think, yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the wood element is associated with the springtime. That is the new beginnings. You know, we're coming out of the winter, things are in hibernation, and we begin a new season of growth and development. The new shoots are beginning to come out, and we're beginning the journey with the wood element in the season of spring. And we all welcome spring, beginning, you know, the cold, kind of bare, stark aspect of winter to new green shoots coming out and thawing out from our winter hibernation and winter's chill. So this is considered the stage of birth. New beginnings, fresh starts. The seeds of fall have germinated and you know, pushing upward through the earth, creating this new harvest that is beginning, or this new growth cycle that's beginning, renewal and growth. That is associated with the wood element. And we have this wood element within us as well. It begins to stir and we begin getting more creative. So this energy of spring awakens our spirit and the creative inspiration to move forward with our plans. This is associated with the liver. And the liver is seen as the organ, like a general commanding in the field. The body is seen as a kingdom of body, mind, spirit. And the wood element is represented by this image of new beginnings and coming forward with our plans. It's the official planning and decision-making in the liver. It commands the ligaments and tendons. You know, so wood element with this, the prototype or the quintessential image of wood is a tree. And we talk about our limbs, you know, like a tree, our legs, limbs, arms, you know, upper limbs, And sometimes our limbs lose their flexibility and mobility, and joints become gnarled, stiff, inflexible. And that is an aspect of the wood energy being unhealthy. So the wood also, this liver also commands the ligaments and tendons and connective tissue. So arthritis, problems with articulating the joints, those kinds of things are associated with this wood time as well, and the liver. So to enhance flexibility in body and mind, to be inflexible in body, but also mind. We can be really fixed and unbending. So this is an aspect of the wood element when we look at the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual aspects. The organs of the wood, again, are liver and gallbladder. And again, they don't necessarily just reflect the organs as we typically think of them in Western medicine, but they have a wider function. So the season is spring. It's also associated with the climate of wind. So, I have mentioned previously, I think we talked about sleeping with a fan on you. Wind, even if it's artificial, like with an overhead fan, creates it penetrates through the pores of the skin and can affect the joints, muscles, and connective tissue, making us stiff. And you may be covered, but your face is not, the head is not. So the muscles of the face, and sometimes even palsies, can occur with this wind invasion through the skin, particularly at night when the qi goes deep into the organs to heal them, and we don't have the superficial wei qi, as it is called, that protects us from external environments like wind or cold or heat. So wind is the climate associated with the wind, and it can affect the joints and the liver. And we mentioned when we talked about the points on the back of the head, there's a point that we did called the wind pond. And the back of the neck is an injurious entry for the wind. And your mother, as I mentioned at the time we were talking about it, may have said to you, don't go out with your, without drying your hair. If for women in particular, long hair, and maybe cold on their neck, and the wind will chill that even more. So the back of the neck, this wind pond point on either side where it attaches to the occiput, is a point that is a little delicate, and the back of the head is an injurious entry for the wind. So wearing a scarf, if it's cold or windy, is appropriate. Anger is the emotion associated with this element. And I mentioned yesterday when we were doing our teaching that there are paramitas or virtues associated with each of the elements. And it is patience that is associated with the wood element. There's a tendency for our energy to rise up and to get angry or frustrated and to demonstrate that in aggressive ways. So the counter to anger is patience. And that is the paramita when we talk about, compassion, loving kindness, and cultivating the way of the bodhisattva, which is done through the perfection of these virtues, the perfection of patience is the undertaking of the bodhisattva. And it is associated with this particular energetic phenomenon. Shouting is the voice. You can tell someone who is angry, certainly because they tend to shout, but the voice of a person who has this imbalance will shout naturally. Their voice will be as if they're calling you from across the room. And you may know somebody who is like that their voice is just shouting. That's how it is, but it's an expression of an imbalance in this wood element with the liver, the shouting quality. There's other qualities, singing and weeping and groaning, that are other qualities of the other elements, but shouting is a diagnostic indicator of a wood element that's out of balance. So the color is green as well, a preference for green. If you look at your wardrobe and see what you surround yourself with, what you paint the walls, what you like to wear, or what you don't like, whether it's attraction or aversion. Everything has a particular energetic resonance, a particular vibration. Green has a vibration that is compatible with the liver. But if our liver is distressed in some kind of way and that communication is out of balance, we may not like the green color, or we may really be attracted to it. So either of those things can happen, but that resonance with the color green is associated with wood, and it also appears as a color on the face, around the eyes, around the lips. There's a tint or a tone of green that is observable for those who have eyes and are trained to see the colors that are manifested in the patient. The time for the liver is 1 to 3 a.m. So this is wood time. 11 to 1 is gallbladder time, and 1 to 3 a.m. in the morning is liver time. And that is the time when the liver is at its peak. And if it's fine, then the liver is distributing its blood, it's doing the thing, it's nurturing the rest of the body. If it is not in balance, then insomnia and other kinds of distress at night can occur. We should be sleeping at that time. You should be in bed by 11 and sleeping so the liver can do its job of sending the blood deep into the organs and healing them. So there are several indicators, again, for the wood element. It is also associated with the eyes, vision. So when we think of planning, it is important to have vision. Okay. So the eyes, yes. So this is the beginning of the yang energy, which tends to rise. And if, again, the wood element is excessive and there's heat, which would create heat, it rises up in the body like it does anywhere else, and it can create redness, dryness, itchiness in the eyes, redness in the face, and headaches, and a variety of other symptoms that occur because of this rising heat energy when the liver is toxic or fatty, or there's a number of things that happen that create this toxic heat in the liver, and it'll manifest in different ways. Also the nails, so cracked, soft, peeling, ridged nails, also associated with this wood element. A sour is also the taste associated with this. So there was a question yesterday about the foods. So green foods, and sour foods are associated with this element as well. So that's, we say, put a little lemon in your water. The sour taste also is stimulating and cleansing to the liver. So sometimes you'll also hear putting vinegar, apple cider vinegar in water. There's a reason why it's detoxing, particularly to the liver, is that it's that taste. And herbal medicine in general is based on taste. And usually we take tinctures or teas. The classic way of giving an herbal formula is to give the raw herbs. You put them in water, you make a tea out of them, and you drink it. And it begins in the mouth with the taste. To take a pill, an herbal formula is not as effective. It will be effective because the herbs can still do their job, but it starts in the mouth with the taste. So as we mentioned, the wood element having to do with planning and decision making. the eyes, the vision, the muscles, this connective tissue in particular, the ligaments and tendons. Muscles are more associated with the earth element, the flesh, and the flesh with the metal element. So those are just some of the associations with the wood element, and we had done the liver 3 and gallbladder 34 already as part of our training in the elements, in the acupressure. So some people have asked me to just a little bit about the function of the liver. We don't really get training as far as these organs go, and I think it's important to have a little bit of an understanding of the job of these organs of our body and what we do, how it would affect them. So the liver is the body's largest organ besides the skin. The skin is the largest organ, but the liver is a triangular shape on the right side, located in the upper right-hand corner underneath in the abdominal cavity, underneath the diaphragm, protected by the ribs. So if you can feel the liver, as you press under the rib cage, not so good. That is, would be an inflammation of your liver, and it would probably be tender to touch if it was extended out like that. But there's 4 lobes of the liver. It consists of 4 lobes. In adults, it weighs about 3 pounds and receives, about 1.5 quarts of blood every minute. It's really flushing the system. It is like a big filter. So just think of 1.5 to 2 quarts of blood every minute going through your liver. And it's responsible, as we were saying, for the vital functions associated with the liver. It secretes chemicals, to support every organ of the body. It forms blood. It cleanses and filters the blood to eliminate toxins. It regulates the blood. It stores blood. But its most known function is that it secretes bile, which aids in the digestion, particularly of fats, by helping to break down fats and carry away waste. So it excretes the bile into the gallbladder, which holds the bile, and that is secreted into the small intestine to digest fats in particular. So sometimes the gallbladder is considered a throwaway organ, and that's the most common abdominal surgery is removal of gallbladders. And often they're sluggish. They can be, there's kind of a sediment that can occur, it's sandy kind of thing, but that can also create stones in the gallbladder. There's gallbladder stones as well, and those can impede and impair the function of the gallbladder. Sometimes the gallbladder is removed because it can't astringe, it can't do its job of pushing the bile into the small intestine for digestion. And that's, unfortunately, can be improved. You can break down those stones. There's certain herbs that are used to detox and to enhance the gallbladder function. But our livers are incredibly challenged, because of chemicals, alcohol, drugs, harmful substances in the water, in the food, in the air. So to have to work and detox, it's exhausting to the liver to a certain degree. So knowing the things that are enhancing to the liver, such as exercise, moving the blood, helping the blood circulate, using a little sour taste to enhance that, getting proper sleep so that the liver is relaxing during the hours of 1 and 3. We had a question yesterday about, well, I have to work the night shift. What about that? Not so good having to work nights. And that is, and particularly when it's off and on. Sometimes you work nights, maybe 3 out of 7 nights, and then you're back to that. The body likes routine. It likes order. And to have that inconsistency of being up all night for a few nights a week, or maybe many nights a week, is really, I mentioned yesterday, it's called the graveyard shift. You know, people who work nights and rightfully named, because it would lead to a premature death. So to recap just a little bit about the liver, it filters blood from the arteries and the digestive tract. It neutralizes and removes toxins from foods, medications, drugs, as well as environmental toxins in the blood. In addition, it produces proteins necessary to form clots and stop bleeding when we are injured. It stores essential vitamins, minerals, nutrients such as K, D, B12, iron. These are all stored and used by the blood cells in emergency circumstances. Stores glucose, helps regulate and maintain normal blood sugar levels, also responsible for blood sugar. Converts ammonia to urea and excretes it through the urine for elimination. Creates bilirubin, which breaks down and destroys old red blood cells. Those are removed naturally. Your body's constantly producing new red blood cells, and they need to be healthy and in abundance, or you become anemic. And it produces the bile and substances to aid in the digestion of proteins, fats, carbohydrates. It also manufactures cholesterol and triglycerides. So, you know, cholesterol serves a function in the formation of hormones and other the substances in the body, and is necessary. We've kind of put a bad mark on cholesterol. Yes, it can be excessive, and it's excessive generally because of the high carbohydrate content, not because of the high fats. It just can't, it causes inflammation, and then the liver can't do its job correctly. And there are bad fats as well that the body can't digest properly. So be careful, you know, when you're, sometimes nuts can be rancid, those fats can be rancid. Rancid oils are really hard on the liver. So good oils, coconut oil, olive oils, the so-called vegetable oils, soy oil, canola oil, vegetable oils generally are not vegetables at all, and corn oil, those are not good oils. Anyway, I recommended a book to you last time, Keto-Tarian Diet. I'm going to refer that again. There's a good description about oils and their ones that are good and ones that are not so good. So any question about the wood elements, so associated with the spring, new beginnings?
Lama, I am a little bit confused about the symptoms versus the tonics. So are you saying that, for example, you would have affinity to green, for example, and you should indulge in that because that's tonifying to liver deficiency?
To a degree. If you're overdoing it, it actually reduces or diminishes or negatively affects the organ. But your body will naturally have an affinity for a certain taste, sweet, sour, salty, bitter, spicy. And it's fine to indulge that on occasion. But, you know, we were saying in your, on your plate, you should have all those tastes that are often associated with the different colors as well. So in moderation, it's tonifying. In excess, it's depleting.
What about the use of milk thistle and licorice root to clean out the liver?
Yeah, milk thistles have been commonly used as a liver tonic. There's a number of them, dandelion and other ones, and that's fine. The thing with licorice you have to be a little bit careful of is the glycerides in there can create a little blood pressure problem. So that is, but yes, look at tonic herbs, and then those are often part an herbal formula that would be given against the liver.
Lama, would you comment on coffee? Okay, let's say you say 1 cup a day, but what if you're getting into 2 or 3, et cetera?
Well, it depends upon your use. You know, there's a lot of phytonutrients in coffee. It can be very useful, but like anything else, it can be excess. And some people are very sensitive to coffee. It gives them anxiety. They can't sleep, even with a little bit. They get anxious and their heart beats, they get tachycardia. So everybody is different. Caffeine in and of itself is a stimulant, you know, and it's been used as a nootropic or a way to enhance the mind as well. So, and so is nicotine for that matter. So you'll see people smoking and drinking coffee when they're writing or doing things to enhance their mental function. But in excess, and of course you can take nicotine in other ways besides smoking. Smoking is not a good way to use a mind-enhancing, and they are mind-enhancing. They do stimulate creativity, and they are called nootropics, if you've ever heard that term. So to answer your question, Larry, is moderation is always best. And you can use green tea, which is probably better. It does have a stimulating effect, and has a lot of also more phytogenic nutrients in it. But as you know, I drink coffee, and the side effect of coffee is also it leaches magnesium out of your system, so you have to increase the magnesium a little bit, or you'll have muscle cramps and problems.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Lama, Michelle had a question in chat, actually. She might be with her dogs again. She was asking about the direction for wood. Is it north?
It's up. You know, we usually say up, periphery, horizontal. We can say, so yes, north.
I was wondering, Lama, if Chinese medicine addresses the acupressure points around the navel, or in the case of symptoms of fatigue, adrenal insufficiency.
What about the points around the navel?
On YouTube, there's quite a bit uploaded about important pressure points surrounding the navel.
Well, you're always treating the person and not the symptoms. So everybody is different. And so what creates an adrenal fatigue, usually we would think adrenals and kidney, which is the adrenals sit above the renals, kidney, above the kidney, adrenal. And that's usually due to stress. So what's causing that stress and the exhaustion of the adrenals? Is it dietary? Is it worry? Is it lack of sleep? Is it? So you can do those points till you're blue in the face, but it is treating the whole person that is key, and you have to understand why those adrenals are deficient. So we would treat the points on the kidney generally, but you have to know the cause of that adrenal insufficiency. Just treating symptoms is the same thing we do in Western medicine. You know, you have a headache, so everyone gets the headache remedy, but that doesn't necessarily take care of the underlying problem. It's like putting a Band-Aid over your oil light when it comes on. That doesn't take care of the underlying problem. So we have to treat the cause. Does that make sense?
Yes, certainly. As we become more mindful, we sort of cultivate the waking center in the brain, and there is a lot of evidence that we suffer sort of some symptoms of insomnia as we become more mindful as a result. Specifically, and and the testimony that advanced meditators need less sleep because of that.
That's not insomnia, though.
So we should not see that as insomnia if there's no fatigue with just 3 or 4 hours of sleep.
Right. Insomnia is not being able to sleep when you want to, and you need to because you're tired all the time. You will, it is true that, you know, Buddha doesn't sleep. And as you progress along the path, you may need less sleep because you're not exhausting yourself through the clinging and aversion and all those other things that are exhausting to our nervous system. That's why the number one thing when we look at this, our strategy here with the golden eight-petaled lotus is meditation. It's self-cultivation. That's first. The rest of this is secondary, really. If you can train your mind appropriately and rest in the natural state of clear mind, you won't have to worry about the rest of it. I mean, our bodies are going to fail. That's what happens when we're born. We're born to die, but it is a whole different story on how one lives in that situation.
I have a question about tea. I'm kind of a new person on tea because I drink coffee. The green tea, you said, you know, drink green tea. Is that good for the liver? Or, I mean, you know, are the different teas, you know, you have green and black and oolong and all that, are they used as a medicine also?
Yeah, they are. And green tea would be good for the liver, yes. Black tea in general, you know, it is a stimulant. You know, those do have stimulating effects. And some people find the green tea or the teas, white tea or prayer teas and chrysanthemum teas, these different teas affect different organ systems. Chrysanthemum is good for the eyes, you know, so there are different teas, and as you say, they have different effects. But green tea is good in general. So is black tea, for that matter. It's enhancing to the kidneys in moderation, but it is diuretic as well.
Have you any recommendation as far as L-theanine for offsetting as a nootropic for caffeine?
Yeah, it's used that way.
Would you say it contributes to wakefulness, alertness, and meditation?
You know, the green tea and has been used in the Zen tradition for a long time for alertness and focus, concentration. So yes, as I say, it is a nootropic, and it's been used that way for ages. But there can be a point of diminishing return. Too much and you become irritable, irritated, and your mind is too hyper, and then it's hard to relax. So, you know, it is a slippery slope for every individual, depending upon their constitutional predisposition. When you're meditating, you don't want to be overly excited, but at the same time, you don't want to be, you know, fatigued or lethargic. So it's a fine line of where that balance is, and that's a very individual, personal thing. Okay, other questions? I think it's good that we have a little bit of understanding about the liver, the gallbladder, energies. I hope this gives you a little bit more understanding about that.